motherhood is such a big thing for a woman to go through, and there's so many different elements to it. So to actually be able to talk about it, I think is a really important thing. So Jack is nearly 4.
Jack is 4.
Jack is 4.
Yeah, just turned 4.
And was it right? He wasn't planned?
He wasn't, no. It was, I think I knew I was pregnant before I did the test, for sure. And it was, I didn't actually talk to anyone about it. And that moment, I didn't tell anyone I was going to do a test, and I did a test. And that moment I found out was really strange, because I was so happy and so elated, and I suddenly felt like I wasn't, like, there was a bigger reason to be here in that moment in time, but I also wanted to really keep that to myself for a while. And by that I just mean a few hours, but I just wanted that time to kind of let it sink in that actually something that I've probably wanted forever, like, it wasn't on the cards for that moment in time, but I've always wanted to be a mom. And that moment, I just wanted to keep it to myself for a little while and just really enjoy it.
How did you feel as well having a boy?
Terrified. There are no boys in our family whatsoever, and we found out really early, actually, at the 12-week scan. We had a private scan, and the doctor that did it said, I can give you a 95% accuracy of the gender.
Which is quite a lot.
Which is, and he's never got it wrong, apparently. So I knew beforehand, I knew it was a boy, and I didn't want it to be. And that is the worst thing ever. Yeah, absolutely. So that's one thing that I beat myself up on so much, knowing what I know now. But I think it's fear of the unknown. Also because I didn't have any cravings as such, but I really wanted beer.
Did you drink beer?
Never drunk beer before, never liked beer, actually been intolerant to beer. But when I was like, I'm having a boy because I would like beer right now. More than anything, I want beer.
Wow. So, do you think that was psychologically because you were having a boy?
I have no idea if that's psychological or whether, I don't know. I just know that it was a really strong like desire to do that. But the day we found out, it was an evening as well, and I cried, but looking back to that person I was then, I just think I don't know why, and I think it's the unknown. I think we'd never been brought up around boys, we've never had a good experience with that, and that's my ideal from being a little girl, from being like, I want to be a mom and have a lovely girl, and I'm really close with my sister, and I think that's how I thought my family would go. And I think in that moment in time, it's so stupid, you've got a 50-50 chance of what you would like, but I absolutely wouldn't. He's blown me away. I wouldn't have it any other way right now.
And what was it like going through the actual pregnancy for the first time? I bet you hear probably a lot about what it's like. Yeah,
and one big thing is, from when I do talk about it, is everyone is different, and everyone has a story to tell you.
Yeah.
And some of those are useful and some of them are not. It's one thing, like, you go through a lot of it by yourself initially because no one knows, and then there's the fear of like, I don't want to say to anybody in case something goes wrong. That's a really big fear initially. But also you feel, well, I did, certainly, I felt so ill, so ill for so long. I really didn't enjoy pregnancy at all until hitting the 3rd trimester. And it's so difficult because initially the first 12 weeks, I think, is when you feel the worst. I was sick a lot of the time. And that went on to about week 17. And trying to work and do all of those things, and it's not until actually that people can visibly see that you're pregnant that things start to change, because everyone's excited for you, everyone has an opinion about things for you, but also more than anything, they're just so happy for you, and you get a lot of support, and you're around positive people all the time when you're pregnant, I think, and that's really, really lovely. people want to help you, they want to do everything because, it's really
Which
nice.
I think is valid as well, as I don't think people realise you're actually growing a person.
I know, it's hard work.
That's like a lot of work already before you even get up. So...
Yeah.
And then was the birth quite easy? Or were you...
So
how did you feel about going into that?
I didn't have much time to think about those things. It all kicked off with Jack before I'd even packed my hospital bag.
Knowing Jack, I'm not surprised.
Yeah, exactly. So things weren't straightforward. I just got to the point where I was enjoying pregnancy. I had a lot of energy. I think they call it the nesting period, where you want to clean all of the time. You just want to prepare, and it's good. But I hit that moment, and at 35 weeks, so full term, it's like 37 to 40 weeks. At 35 weeks, I came home from work and I had a really, really heavy bleed. And that's the moment that I thought, okay, this is real.
Yeah. Did you think it was you losing him, or did you know that was the time?
I didn't. I tried really hard not to think I was losing him. I, in a crisis, stay very calm and I go into underdrive. I was here and I was by myself, and I called the hospital, and I remember thinking, I'm not an assertive person, and this hasn't changed since having a child. The woman, it's an emergency number, I couldn't get through for ages. The woman eventually answered the phone and she said, I just need to finish what I'm doing, because if I don't finish it, I won't remember it. And I went, okay. Currently heavily bleeding and losing a lot of blood in my bathroom on the floor. And eventually I spoke to her and she said, you need to get here now. The quickest way is to get someone to take you. So I called my parents, who were very close, and took me straight in. Took me straight to delivery, hooked me up to everything I needed to, and it didn't then happen. Fortunately, they have to give you, if you're going to have a premature baby, they have to give you like injections for the baby and things like that. There wasn't space on any of the wards in the local hospitals, even up to Darren Valley and places from here. So they delayed it as long as possible. And I then remained in hospital for about 3 weeks.
Yeah.
That wasn't the best time of the pregnancy. That was probably...
So you were still pregnant for those 3 weeks?
Still pregnant, and it was a... we're going to induce you, we're not, so on 3 occasions I thought I was going to have Jack, and in those 3 weeks I think that's when everything changed very quickly for me, for my headspace, absolutely everything. I didn't know, the best thing about that time was I could hear his heartbeat 24/7. I was wired up, and it was the most magical thing. And that kept me sane, through the whole process, because...
To hear that as well for 3 weeks, I imagine that brought you really close together.
Absolutely. That, to me, that was my bond. I was like, I'm not in this by myself. Whatever happens, there's 2 of us here. And that's when everything massively kicked in. That protection, that's absolutely everything. But also because it's still not real... and you're still not that connected, you've got that inside you, and you can hear it there, over there on the screen, you can see on the screen and everything. There's still an element of being detached from it all, and there's the fear that comes in through all of that is quite overwhelming. So 3 weeks of up and down, it was a roller coaster, and then when it happened, it was terrifying. It was a planned induction, so... and he was early still when they decided to do that, and after 24 hours of labour
a long time.
and kicking and screaming on my part, they put an epidural in, which was the best thing ever. I can't recommend it enough. But then it resulted in an emergency C-section, the whole thing, and nothing went to plan. Everything was scary.
Sounds like birth.
Yeah, absolutely. You forget what it's all about. You don't know if you're going to survive. You don't know if your baby's going to survive. And traumatic is probably the word I would use. And that's something that I don't ever go back to think about, because I'm not sure I can process it to feel okay about it because it's certainly put me off wanting to do it again.
Yeah.
However much I love this, and this is the best thing ever, it's still something as powerful as the experience you go through at birth can shape
I think
everything.
this is the thing, it's so individual, the experience you have, and people don't talk enough about the pluses and the minuses and the things that you actually go through in the whole process.
Yeah.
So now that Jack is 4+, what's it like looking back to that now? Like going through the whole 4 years of his life?
I can't believe we're here. There have been times when I haven't thought we'd make it to the end of the day, let alone to a milestone, let alone to, the first birthday, the second, but like all of those things, because it's hard work. And for the first year or two, you give up everything that you were. And I know that this is my individual experience because, again, like talking about it is so important. But I shut myself away from that because I had very negative reactions when I spoke about things honestly. So that was so difficult in that you take away your voice in some ways, because the first 12 weeks, everyone tells you the first 12 weeks hard, like no one lies about that. But then after that, everyone has these babies that sleep through the night, everyone has like perfect this, and no one can, like, they get so much help, and that isn't everyone's experience of it. So when you dare to say something negative, you're not met with the best reaction, and then you think, actually, that's my cry for help, and no one is there.
And yet it's never perfect. There's always the positive and negatives.
And you learn that people aren't honest about things either, because you say what you're expected to say about it. And that's been the biggest thing, and that's what's actually created my most favourite relationship since, with people that have been through this, and it's the honest ones. It doesn't matter whether your story is great, sad, traumatic. It's just that you're honest and you understand on a level playing field of being a mother, that you understand everyone's experience is unique, and at the end of the day you look down to the child that you created, and nothing, absolutely nothing, can match that. And
I think that's a really beautiful lesson to teach Jack and the child in general anyway, because everybody's different, everybody's experience is different, but the one thing that brings people together is if we're all honest about it. We all have the good things and the bad things. But then, like you say, at the end you end up with this child.
Which is remarkable.
Is that weird to think that you created that child?
Yeah, more so now.
And you're responsible for him.
I'm absolutely, the responsibility hits hard at times, and it's, again, overwhelming is one word I've used a lot in the last few years. The fact that I'm responsible for everything, and when people can't understand that, that's the bit where you really struggle, because it's like, well, why don't you take time for yourself? Why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? But when you're doing it and you're doing it alone, you cannot he comes first. And he can't do things for himself. That first year, you have to, you walk around everywhere and you're doing a constant health and safety check of everything, and you're neurotic and you're paranoid, and you just think all the time something bad's going to happen, something bad, because the responsibility that you're taking care of someone that can't take care of themselves is so big. And it's tough. It means you don't, for whatever reasons, you're not sleeping because they're not letting you sleep. The opportunity you have to sleep, your head is just processing, thinking, how can I do this better? What can I get right? You know, things. So.
You hit on something there as well about time for you. What I love about you and Jack is that you both, you go on adventures and you do the fun things, but you also understand taking time for you and having time to rebuild yourself, so that you're then able to be there for Jack. The last year I've learnt that, and I will absolutely, and that is what I will go back and say, if I could do anything differently, is learning that it's not selfish. I think I thought for the first 2 or 3 years that if I dared to do anything for myself, that was wrong. And
I don't even think I had that pressure from anywhere else. That was me. That was all me. And I'm not saying I would refuse help if it was offered, but I didn't ask for it. So I didn't think, when I was watching, you know, friends whose husbands were having the kids for the day so they could go to the spa and just recharge and remember what something's like. If I could do it again or differently, I would go back, and from the start I would make sure I had time to take care of myself, because losing basic needs it strips everything away. And you can do it, like, you can, but you don't realise how important a bath is. Like, an uninterrupted bath for 20 minutes, when you don't have that in your life, like, you go to some really dark places. And then that's the difference. Like, because I didn't have any of that, I almost went into overdrive with trying to make our lives what we could. So we did have adventures and we did do all of these things because I wanted something to show for it all, in a way.
And does he get that as well? Like, he knows when mum's having mum time?
Yes, he does now. Yeah, not a few years ago he wouldn't understand that. And in a way, that's why work's so important. Like, just being able to go back to work for 3 days.
Something that's kind of away from the day-to-day.
But then you think, you're sitting there and having a conversation with someone and they're like, so your me time is work? Like, okay, yeah, that's probably, okay, so yeah, I do get a hot drink and I do get to sit down and have lunch without someone climbing all over me. But definitely, absolutely, now he is understanding, and as long as he is happy, that's all that matters to me. I won't feel guilty if I'm gonna, you know, he's going to spend time with Nan and Grandad so that I can go and do something for me, because that makes me better with him. Like, absolutely, like, just having a few hours headspace from that to sit there and think, we're going to go and do this, or we're going to go and do that, and we're going to have the best time doing it. It's great.
I think I can imagine, though, that just gives him an appreciation of you as well, and an appreciation of him having his own time. You know, that you don't have to be with each other and on top of each other all the time. Exactly.
And only recently has he understood. We've always had a routine and it's always been like that. Luckily, I didn't have any sort of separation anxiety when I went back to work from either of us. He didn't seem to. He's been around my parents since birth, and they were with him when I went back to work, and it was really nice, and that made that transition so great. Like, I would never worry when I was elsewhere because I knew he was safe. But it's different now. He'll have a plan. He'll say, if you're going to go and do something, then this is what I do, and we'll come back together and we've got our own stories to tell each other. And that is magical. Like, to come back at the end of a day or something, and he gives me a, like, very accurate descriptive account of what he has done in the day, and, you know, his circle of friends is one thing, but for him to say, oh, mummy, what did you do? And think, okay, you know, you're interested in me too, that's nice.
What's been, like, looking back, the best thing about having a child that was not expected in the first place?
It's a team, and one, I think, that I've never found in any other relationship I've had with anybody or anything. That's what's blown me away, the fact that at the end of the day, we've got each other and we are strong together, and we are incredibly strong together. And I can't explain how that makes me feel. It's very deep and very emotional, like, to think that I wouldn't have him is like, or I wouldn't have the experience that I've had since having him. And he has taught me so much about myself that I didn't know before. You think at, you know, the age of 29, 30, you've got a lot of things figured out in this world, and then someone so small and so tiny comes along and teaches you that you can go to places you didn't know possible. You can have the highest of highs and the lowest of lows during that period of time, but you're there and you're surviving, and
you've got each other.
You've got each other, yeah. And we have a very... It's not until I talk about it that I sometimes think, oh, okay, we do things slightly differently. There are times when I'm not the parent and he's not the child. Again, we are equal.
Yeah.
So it'll be around the house, we'll do something. I've got my jobs here, he's got his jobs. And then we come together and we've completed something. And he'll come up and high five and go, teamwork, Mum. And I just think, yeah, because this is, I need this to happen. I'm not depriving him of a childhood in any way. We're just teaching each other how we fit into the world. And
Which is, I think, a really lovely way to see it.
Yeah.
Because I think, well, you don't get any relationship more than parenthood that does that.
No.
But just in general, we're all here helping to teach each other how to live, how to be.
Yeah. And I find it crazy that someone so small has that ability and that power to do that, and so innocently and so naively. But when you get an Mum, I love you, and it's spontaneous and it just hits hard, you think, actually, we're doing fine. Like, we are understanding each other and we are understanding each other's needs. And it's brilliant.
Thank you so much for talking about it. Honestly, to actually talk openly about something that's seen as so, like, normal, I think it's so important, honestly.
Yeah.